The atmosphere in the dining room grew heavy as my mother-in-law's words lingered in the air. Sophia, darling, I hope you see that this is meant to be just for family, she said, her manicured fingers brushing mine with a pretense of warmth, her eyes sparkling with victory. I'm sure you'll find something to occupy yourself while Jacob spends quality time with his parents and sister. The rented china she'd been touting as cherished heirlooms suddenly looked tacky under the chandelier's glow. Faces around the table stiffened, Jacob half standing, his sister Natalie fixating on her wine glass, and his father, Robert, suddenly engrossed in the folds of his napkin. The Royal Crown Cruises brochure sat open between us, showcasing the Mediterranean trip on the ship I'd helped design last spring. The owner's suite she'd been boasting about for nearly half an hour bore my personal touches in every detail. My name is Pamela, I'm 28, and I'm a leader in the hospitality industry. This is the tale of how my mother-in-law's attempt to leave me out of a family vacation unveiled the true essence of sophistication. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories like this. Growing up as the daughter of William Kennedy, the founder of Royal Crown Cruises, I learned early that real wealth isn't flaunted. It's shown through how you treat others. My father built his company on outstanding service and environmental care, not exclusivity or pretense. I met Jacob 3 years ago at one of our ports, where he worked as a marine biologist on our coral reef conservation project. His genuine passion for his work and lack of interest in status symbols drew me to him, a stark contrast to his family's priorities. I didn't immediately reveal my family's ownership of Royal Crown Cruises. Instead, I introduced myself as Pamela from Guest Relations, wanting him to know me for who I am, not my title or lineage. Our love was real, untainted by calculations of wealth or social standing. Jacob's family, however, was a different story. His mother, Irene, lived in a world where appearances were paramount. She stretched credit cards to their limits to uphold an image of affluence, flaunted designer labels, and made thinly veiled inquiries about my family's finances. You work for a cruise line, she'd asked at our first meeting, her tone laced with condescension. In what role? Guest relations, I'd answered, omitting that I was overseeing global guest experience for the entire fleet. At our wedding last year, a modest beach ceremony on one of our private islands, which I described to his family as a local shore, Irene had sighed theatrically. Really, Jacob? Couldn't you have picked a more distinguished venue? I'll have to call it a destination wedding to save face with my friends. For a year, I endured her increasingly obvious jabs about her disappointment in Jacob's choice of spouse. Links to better job opportunities, suggestions for high-class clothing stores, and remarks about how some people fail to grasp the importance of appearances. I handled it gracefully, partly because Jacob was worth it and partly because I knew the truth would surface eventually. I just didn't anticipate it unfolding the way it did. Back at that dining room table, Irene had just excluded me from a family cruise on my own ship. Are you barring my wife from our family trip? Jacob's voice sliced through the quiet, his grip tightening on the tablecloth. Don't be so dramatic, dear, Irene said with a dismissive wave. She was never truly invited. Turning to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, she added, You work for a cruise line, don't you? I'm sure you can find a discounted trip more suited to you. Jacob was on the verge of erupting, but I rested my hand on his arm. This was my moment. You're right, Irene, I said calmly, pulling out my phone. I do have some influence in the cruise industry. I dialed a familiar number and put it on speaker. Royal Crown Cruises Executive Office. How may I assist you? My father's voice came through clearly. Hi, Dad, I said warmly, watching Irene's expression shift. That Mediterranean cruise for the Gardner family next month. The one in the owner's suite? We need to cancel it. The room fell silent, and Irene's face morphed from smug to bewildered to mortified in moments. Dad, she whispered, her complexion paling. Of course, sweetheart, my father replied. Why cancel? That's your personal cabin. Were you and Jacob planning to use it instead? Irene let out a sound like a deflating balloon. No, I continued, locking eyes with her. There's been a mix-up about who's considered family. I wouldn't want anyone to feel out of place on their trip. Understood, my father said, amusement in his tone. I'll refund their deposit right away. Will you be at the board meeting tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it, I replied. Thanks, Dad. Love you. I hung up, set my phone down, and took a slow sip of water as the table processed the revelation. Your father? Irene stammered, clutching the table's edge. Oh, I'm sorry, I said lightly. I thought you knew, given how much you talk about Royal Crown cruises. My father is William Kennedy, the owner. I'm not just an employee. I'm the director of global guest experience and heir to the company. I nodded toward the brochure she'd been waving all evening. That owner suite you booked? It's my personal cabin, reserved for my family. I was planning to upgrade your booking to our top family package, but since I'm not family enough to join, Jacob struggled to suppress a laugh. Natalie covered her mouth, and Robert looked like he wished the floor would swallow him. Irene opened and closed her mouth before finally saying, But you work in customer relations. I do, I nodded, along with managing operations, environmental programs, and strategic planning. My father believes in mastering every part of the business. I paused. It's about upholding true standards. The irony of her earlier comments about standards wasn't lost on anyone. Irene abruptly pushed back her chair. Excuse me, she muttered, fleeing the room. Pamela, we're so sorry. We had no idea, Robert said, clearing his throat. Of course you didn't, I replied kindly. We kept it private because we wanted to be treated as equals. Jacob loves me for me, not for what I own. That's all I wanted from his family, too. I can't believe Mom tried to exclude you from a cruise you own, Natalie said, letting out a laugh she'd been holding back. This beats any reality show. Irene didn't return to the table that night. We heard her upstairs, alternating between sobs and frantic phone calls, likely to friends she bragged to about her luxurious cruise. As we left, Robert pulled me aside. Is there any way could we possibly keep the cruise booking? I smiled. I haven't actually canceled it, but if it's going forward, some things need to change. Over the next few weeks, Irene transformed remarkably. Her snide remarks about my job and subtle digs about status vanished. She became overly courteous, praising Royal Crown cruises and clumsily showing interest in my work. I read about your coral reef preservation program, she said one day, clearly having researched. It's very impressive. Thank you, I replied. Would you like to hear more? We're working on some exciting new studies. Gradually, Irene realized her fixation on appearances had nearly cost her family a unique opportunity, not just for a lavish cruise, but for a genuine bond with her son and daughter-in-law. A month later, we all boarded the Mediterranean cruise together. Irene, Robert, Natalie, Jacob, and me. I'd honored my promise, upgrading them to our premier family package with connecting suites and VIP access to all amenities. On our first night at sea, we dined at the captain's table. Irene was unusually quiet, taking in the elegant dining room. Pamela, she said softly, her voice humbler than ever. I owe you an apology, not just for that dinner, but for everything. I was so caught up in looking wealthy that I missed what real class is. And what's that? I asked. Treating people with respect, she answered. Like you and your father do. I've been on this ship less than a day, and I see how the crew regards you, not out of fear or awe of your title, but because they truly respect you. I reached across and squeezed her hand. Welcome to the real family business, Irene. The rest of the cruise changed us all. Irene stopped trying to impress and started enjoying herself. Robert surprised us with his karaoke skills at the ship's nightclub. Natalie fell in love with our marine biology program and applied for an internship. Jacob just smiled and said, I told you they'd come around. 6 months later, our family dinners are genuinely pleasant. Irene occasionally reverts to old habits, but catches herself quickly. She's even begun volunteering with our cruise line's charitable programs. Last week, she called me emotional. Pamela, my friend Margaret Thompson, the one always boasting about her wealth, booked a cruise with one of your competitors. I noted her use of your competitors with a smile. And that's upsetting because Royal Crown is far superior, she said. Their environmental record is awful, and I hear they mistreat their staff. Could you help me get her a booking with us instead? I want her to experience true luxury. I grinned into the phone. Irene, I think I can make that happen. That evening, as Jacob and I dined at our home overlooking the harbor, he asked if I regretted not revealing my background sooner. Not at all, I said. Everything unfolded when it needed to. Your mother had to learn what true class means. And the dramatic reveal at dinner had nothing to do with it, he teased. I laughed. Okay, that was satisfying. But the real win was the change it sparked. Your mom's starting to get what my father always taught me. True luxury isn't about flaunting or excluding. It's about creating moments that unite people. Jacob raised his glass. To family cruises. To family cruises, I echoed. And to mothers-in-law who learn their lessons. We're planning another family cruise next year. Irene's already listing activities she wants to try, without a word about what others might think. Robert's excited about the new golf simulator we're installing. Natalie will join us during her break from the marine biology program. And me. I'm just thrilled that my family, both the one I was born into and the one I married into, has found its harmony. The owner's suite Irene once tried to exclude me from? We've renamed it the family suite because sometimes the best response isn't about settling scores. It's about making space for everyone, even those who once pushed you away. My father still chuckles about the whole ordeal, using it with names changed in our company's customer service training. Every guest on our ships deserves to be treated like family, he tells new hires, even if they're not the owner's daughter-in-law. Irene overheard this during a ship tour and laughed. I deserve that, she admitted. But I'm learning. And she is. We all are. Our next family cruise will be incredible because this time, everyone's truly included.